Hey guys, this is Jackson, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about AI today. Um, God, I've been having some conversations with people about AI recently, and I've just been watching people have conversations and watching some of the changes that are happening, and it's blowing me away. I'm shocked by how things are changing, how quickly things are changing, and how polarized it is, and how destabilizing it is. And I want to talk about a couple of things that I sort of see happening and what I imagine may or may not happen in the future. So see what you think about this. But AI in its current state, with when I say AI, I'm talking about language models and the capacity for human beings to interface with machines using language to get machines to basically leverage enormous sets of data and training and intelligent algorithms to essentially manifest the will of a human being as expressed through their thought. That is what I think about when I that's what I talk about when I think about AI. I think of it as a tool that people can use to essentially remove the friction between what a person wants to exist or what a person conceptualizes, whether it be a piece of art, a 3D model, a game to run on a computer, or even like something to like 3D print, or like maybe an essay that they want to write. I don't know. A piece of art, something that usually, not necessarily art, but like a piece of work, something that usually takes labor to create, usually through some other interface with a machine, whether it's clicking on a computer or something. Any of those things, AI is basically the capacity for a human being to have that thing be created just by using their words. So that's the first thought that I've got about AI. That's sort of how I see it. And where I see that going, actually, we work with language models at the moment, but there's the potential for that to be interfaced with a human brain, for example. Like if there could be a language or an interface developed between what's going on in a person's mind in terms of like say electrical signals, and then mapping that to what that person is trying to say, and then hooking that up to a machine so that the machine can interpret what that person wants based on the activity in their brain and their thoughts, and then create that physically. I think that's coming as well. So I think that's sort of the purpose behind the Neuralink thing. It's like an interface between the human mind and machines. And then as generative AI comes into the scene with language models, I think basically what we're going to end up with is a seamless interface where people can think their thoughts into existence via creation, but via the interpretation of language models fed into software and training that can then take that intent and then digitally produce it in a machine in terms of like a model or a piece of art. And then I suppose the next step is to then physically create that in terms of like 3D printing. So basically what I think we'll end up with is the capacity for people to think physical things into existence. Ultimately, we're not there yet because there's problems with language models, there's problems with everything, but that's sort of where I see this going. That's sort of where I see it going. It's like the potential to manifest our thoughts physically, without friction, and to reduce the friction between what a person imagines and what they can create. So it's like this is a very polarizing thing for people, because there are entire industries at the moment that are built up basically on people's capacity to interface with machines. So if you look at software and programming languages, like for example in our industry that we talk about on this channel is game development, you've got people who are proficient in Unreal Engine, proficient with say C++, or proficient with Blender or Maya or Photoshop or some music software or whatever. And then basically their skill and the thing that they're paid for is their capacity to take somebody's vision or take their own vision, and then through their mastery of that interface, then produce the physical or digital result. So they're basically a bridge between thought and creation, or artistic vision and then physical manifestation. And then basically what AI does is removes the middleman, for better or worse, because there are problems with generative AI, and there's the whole issue that it creates like soulless garbage because it's not a human being and like whatever. But I think when leveraged properly as a tool, it can be used in ways that are more powerful than any other medium. It's like at the moment we're all split into different industries with different software, but all of those software can be essentially replaced by what is the fundamental means of communication for a human being, which is language. And if you can express your vision through language, or even better, if you can think it clearly in your mind, and then have technology that is advanced enough to decode what you're saying, and then display to you different iterations of what it is that you want, and then you can have a conversation with the machine to say, okay, I like this about this one, and I like this about this one. Can you combine these together, and can you fix that and fix this? Basically, you get a piece of software and a human and machine interface that makes all previous pieces of software and interfaces obsolete. Game engines, visual art software, digital audio workstations, all of it. So let that sink in for a moment. And I should just say, because that isn't to say that there aren't places for these things. I think what's going to happen in the meantime is there's going to be a balance of linguistically generated art where you're talking to a machine to have it produce what you want, and then you can perhaps touch it up and fix it with the software that you're familiar with. But I think as time goes on, maybe we'll become, and the software gets better, maybe there'll be no need for anything else other than the language model. It's like your language and how well you can communicate with the AI and the machine is basically the capacity to which you can manifest your visions into reality. Because I think artificial intelligence, what we call artificial intelligence, is basically going to be the most powerful tool that there is. It's like it's the culmination of all software development and the capacity to take training data from everything all over the world, to look at everything, scrape all the information, and then consolidate it and then access it based on meeting the prompt that you give it. It's like it's the most powerful database of knowledge, and with the algorithms that can use that database to then create the things that you tell it to create. And so this brings me to another point. So, at the moment things are just language models, and then so the argument is, well, you can't necessarily make every point with language. Like sometimes you need to write things, and it's like sometimes you can draw things with your hand that you can't necessarily speak, because there's a relationship between you as a human being and your hands and the way that you work with things. Like we've evolved over millions of years to work with our hands, right? And there's a special connection between the way that we think and working with our hands. And when we work with our hands, we have access to the intelligence that's been evolved into our bodies over millions and millions of years of evolution, making spears, making pottery, making foraging, and killing animals and touching each other, and like all these things. It's like the hand and brain connection is like deeply connected in a way that precedes our language. And so you might say, well, you can draw things that you can't speak, and that's probably true, because there's a deep instinctual, intuitive, pre-verbal, prehistoric relationship between our hands and our bodies and what we think that is more deep and ancient and primal than our words. But then there's no reason why why there couldn't be an interface between our bodies and our hands and AI. So instead of communicating with an AI via speech, why couldn't you communicate with an AI via your drawings? Or why couldn't you communicate with an AI via a dance, for example, or hand gestures, or facial expressions, or anything. I think there's room for more interfaces, is basically what I'm saying, is that we're working with language models at the moment, and you can feed language models images of things that you want it to draw from for inspiration, and you can use different training data sets and things like that. But I think you know, if people are intelligent, well, people are intelligent, and I think what's going to happen is that there will be more interfaces. Maybe you could sing a song to an AI, and then it could use that as a prompt, or you can use your hands, and you could work with it. Maybe AI will fucking have hands in the future, and you'll be able to like touch it and try and communicate with it through like a dance or something. I don't know. Sounds all crazy when I put it like that, but basically the point is that you know, language doesn't need to be the limitation through which we communicate with AI. I think we can communicate with AI through everything that we do as human beings, whether it's writing or drawing or dancing or singing or all these things that predate our language. So, that's something worth thinking about. It's like AI is essentially a capacity to just interface with a human being in whatever way. And as it gets trained and as we train it and as it interacts with us, it learns from us. It learns more and more from us what we're trying to communicate and the intent that we have through the words and the way that we act. It's like, the more that we talk with AI and give it prompts, and then the more satisfied we become with its answers, it's learning about us and it's learning how we communicate. And so as we communicate more with this machine that we call AI, whether through words or through any other means, singing, touching, dancing, whatever, it's going to get better and better and better at being able to read what it is that we're trying to communicate. And then supposing that it has our best interests at heart, it can be used as a tool to then manifest those things for us. So it can be used as a tool, so it understands us, and assuming it likes us and wants to please us, we can use that as a tool to to create whatever we want. Assuming that it doesn't like us, which is like a whole other thing, like regarding like sentience of machines and like whatever, which I'm not going to go into. But if it didn't like us, then that's like the worst case, because then it's like, well, it knows what we want, and if it hates us, it just does the opposite. So I don't even want to think about that, man. So let's fucking not go there. So yeah, it's gonna destroy all industries. I think it's gonna destroy a lot of industries anyway in the meantime, because it's so overwhelmingly powerful. Which essentially, this is the last point that I'll talk about, is basically it's a very profound redistributor of power. There are sort of power gradients in a lot of industries in game, like for example in game development. Only AAA studios with big budgets and whatever can produce high quality games because of the cost that it takes to develop art, to develop 3D models, to develop animations, to develop the back end for fucking inventory systems, player networking, other gameplay systems, like all of it. There's a lot that goes into a game, a lot of technical stuff, a lot of artwork and modeling and all kinds of shit, which all takes time. It all takes time to take those visions and then to program them into a computer. And basically what AI is doing is just reducing that gap to zero on every front, in every industry, and becoming increasingly more powerful and doing it faster and faster. Like I played with Claude 3.5 recently, and you can use your speech to have it code a game for you. So it's worth thinking about what the end point of that is, because the end point of that is basically you have a idea for a AAA game, and then you can speak it into a computer and have it make it for free or a very little cost, and so there's going to be a redistribution of power that's going to be happening. The people who can use AI and communicate with machines are going to basically destroy everybody else. They're going to make everybody else obsolete. Except for the caveat that, there is the issue of soulless art, and high quality tools don't necessarily mean high quality creations, which is something I've talked about in a previous video. Like having a more powerful tool, or wait, hang on, how does that put? It's like, the wrong man using the right means. When the wrong man uses the right means work in the wrong way. It's like if you have powerful tools but no artistic vision, basically you don't get good art. Basically, you just get more and more and more dismal art, more and more and more soulless art. So that's just something to be conscious of. But anyway, so that's my little rant on AI at the moment. Basically, I see it as an equalizing force. It's an immensely powerful new tool that is iterating and becoming more and more powerful by the day. Almost anyone can use it. You know, there's not that much cost, I don't really think, to leverage it. It can do immense work very quickly. It's very intelligent. It's getting better at understanding what it is that we're trying to communicate with it. And I think a lot of people are polarized by it. I think a lot of people feel threatened by it because they have put a lot of time into learning an interface or a medium that, you know, essentially becomes obsolete in some ways, not in all the ways, because, you know, drawing and things, I don't think, you know, you can replace that with language. Like I said, I think the way that you draw things and the way that you create art, and art fundamentally, it's an expression of your soul, right? And it's not just verbal. It's like you can't just verbally describe what you like about a piece of art. That's what makes art art. It's like there's something about it that is fundamentally unspeakable, which is what makes it so captivating and mysterious and compelling. And so I don't think you can just talk to a machine and have it produce something unique. I think there is something more intuitive and perhaps tacit and you know, like embodied about creating art. But one point that I want to make is that I don't think that medium or that means of expressing yourself needs to be mutually exclusive with artificial intelligence. I think there can be artificial intelligence that can learn to interpret the drawings that you're doing, can learn to interpret the song that you're singing, and perhaps empower you to express yourself even more fully. So say, for example, you're singing a melody, and you want the AI to accompany you with some bass, some harmonies, some, you know, percussion or like whatever. There's no reason why you couldn't feed it inspiration, or train it on the kind of stuff that you want it to produce, and then you can jam with the AI and have it follow your lead, like with your voice, follow your melody, and then have it just play along. There's no reason why that couldn't happen. You know, there's no reason why. There's no reason for mediums like drawing or painting or dancing or singing or any of these things to become obsolete in favor of language models. I don't think that's the case. And so I don't think people need to be threatened by it. I think what would be helpful for people would to develop a positive relationship to the potential of AI in a way to pull it closer to yourself and to understand it and to understand how it can serve you rather than feel like it's against you. Because I don't think it is. I think it's neutral, and I think what we see in it is a projection of what we see in the world at large, and in some ways what we carry within ourselves. It's like our we project our fears onto it, you know. And so I guess if that's you, I'd encourage you to sort of, you know, think about it. Think about what AI could potentially do to you or do for you. Do to you or do for you. Maybe that was a Freudian slip. I have my own fear about AI. You know, think about it and think about it. Full stop. Anyway, so that's my rant about AI. Drop me a comment if you found that interesting or if you got any thoughts about that, because I feel like this is a very it's a very confusing thing and it's happening very quickly, and I don't think we know where this is going to end up yet. So, you know, it's fair game. Have your guess, place your predictions, and I guess we'll see. Peace out, guys.